Hello y'all, this is Ollie Wu. I'm back with another tutorial video. Well, we're still cloning an EQ curve, but today we're trying to clone an EQ curve from a reverb. And for that I have here the UAD EMT 140 reverb, which is a plate reverb. And it does have an EQ that's applied in addition to the reverb. So we're trying to get just that EQ. And I can tell you already it's quite complex. I tried to do that with all the techniques we've discussed previously, such as using the EQ curve analyzer or the spectrum thief or also the FabFilter Pro Q4. And none of them were really able to clone that EQ. And I think part of the problem is that sending noise into a reverb is already creating obviously some chaos. And the trick is really we want to get rid of the actual reverb signal and just leave the EQ remaining. So let's see how we could maybe do that. I will use a noise generator. So I'm using the same one here from Melda Productions that I used before. And I will just use white noise or pink noise, either way is fine, with 0 dB. So that's not new. Then I have two reverb channels, reverb 1 and reverb 2. In the channel reverb 1, I will leave the EQ engaged. I will also make sure that the mix is totally wet and that there's no modulation at all selected. So modulation depth in this preset is 0, so it's all good, because that will create additional wiggly lines that we don't want. Putting a second reverb in here, and this time I'm switching the EQ off. So in the second channel, EQ is off, and the first channel, EQ is on. We're using the chrome plate preset mostly because it has very extreme EQ settings here for low shelf and high shelf. Now I have a new plugin that I found, which is called Blue Cat FreqAnalyst Multi 2. And it is quite amazing. In the end, it's also a spectrum analyzer plugin, but it can also do the difference between spectra. So that's going to be very interesting. Spectra or spectrums. So I'm going to select number 1 under instant in channel 1 for my reverb 1 channel. Reverb 1. And I'm going to put another instant in this channel, and I'm going to select 2 and name it Reverb 2. Activate these. Now we don't have any signal yet, so let's remember, in the sense of the tone generator, we need to also send a signal to Reverb 1, and in contrast to last time, I will make sure I'm actually sending it at 0 dB and not the default -6. We had this mystery once that it was, the level was off by 6 dB. So this time we're okay. And we're seeing these curves. If you want, you can be anal and remove the names. You could also remove all this below here by going to show controls. And this one, if you don't want it, you can also remove this by clicking on show list. Now keep in mind, this is a demo version, so we will see some timeouts every once in a while. So now I will click on this little eye symbol to get the diff view. And you can already see this looks a lot better. And once we're clicking on synchronize instances, this looks really perfect. And maybe in that case, we do want to show the list on the right side. So, okay, let's keep that one then. Yeah, and let's zoom in a bit here. Yeah, this is really great. We have a low shelf here going down and a high shelf going up. very extreme in levels. So what's the next step? How would we clone this to another reverb? So imagine we would eventually switch off these two reverbs and put in another pair of the same reverb in where we want to clone our reverb into, including the EQ curve. We will talk about the rest of the reverb cloning in another tutorial, but yeah, today it's about the curve. Well, I found out if I use our EQ curve analyzer, set it to generator, and set the size to 2048 instead of the 8000 default one, that works a lot better than using the white or pink noise for this part. So then I'm using the Acon digital equalize 2 here as my clone EQ, as I did sometimes before. This is just as an example for now to see something. And then I'm putting in another version of the BlueCat FreqAnalyst, and I can only use 3 instances. So that's why I had to remove it from my browser for the second part here. So in here, we're going to select slot number 3, and instead of reverb 2, it's going to be our clone EQ. That's all this third instant needs to do. It's just basically sending the signal to the other instances, like the first one was doing the same thing. So now I need to zoom out again to be able to see that new signal. And also keep in mind, the clone EQ against the clone EQ doesn't really show us anything. It basically subtracts it to 0. The other thing we will do is we will save that 0 line into number 4 here. Well, you can see this one creates a more white line here at 0. So now I will use that curve I created with the subtraction of the same signals as my comparison curve. So if I compare the clone EQ against the 0 line, this is what I end up with. And sometimes it's just somewhere completely different, so that's why I zoomed out before. So let's zoom back in. Let's make sure this stays on the screen. Open our EQ. And also, open our generator one more time. And then we can fine tune the setting here, the level, to get the EQ exactly on the 0 line. So about there. So right here, it's minus 56 dB to do it. Well, remember you got a demo version, so these things are going in and out, and sometimes you need to click this multiple times to get it back into the middle. But now you can clone the EQ just by using a high shelf, maybe change the slope a little bit, and a low shelf. Also change the slope for that a bit. And then you can take that same curve in your cloned EQ and clone that against another pair of reverbs that you're going to plug in here, like I explained before. So this is definitely the most complicated tutorial we've done so far. So watch it a couple of times, slow it down, try to follow the steps, and then make sure you save your settings also for all these 3 channels. But yeah, you can do this all with the demo version of a great plugin here. Turns out sometimes this generator wants to have another instance of the EQ curve analyzer, and I will set it to the same channel. And yeah, I think I changed this from group 1 to group 2 because remember, group 1 is already used implicitly over here in the browser. So now let's take another look. Sometimes we need to resynchronize this as well. Seems we're back with a curve. Okay, so around 51, 52 seems to still work. Okay, this looks pretty good. Until next time, this is Olli Wu.